While we all wait for Naughty Dog to maybe announce The Last of Us Part 3, here are some Last of Us likes that might just fill that pesky void. Also, these videos couldn't be made without you. We need your suggestions and comments on next week's video about top 10 games you can finish fast right now. But for now, let's get back to 10 games like The Last of Us, 2 of which are out right now and you can play, and the other 8 are coming out soon, so this is just to whet your appetite and to make sure you get them on your wish lists. At number 10, it's State of Decay 3. The original State of Decay was released barely a week before the first Last of Us blew everyone's minds, and 12 years later, the third entry into this post-apocalyptic multiplayer survival series is soon gearing up for release. Once again, players are plunged into an open world set years after an undead apocalypse has wiped out most of humanity. You can squad up with up to 3 other players in a persistent world to not only survive, but try and build a community together. For the great many lamenting Naughty Dog's cancellation of The Last of Us Online, State of Decay 3 might just go away to making up for it, with its emphasis on scavenging, gruelingly brutal combat, and surviving together or dying alone. And best of all, the most recent trailer confirmed the presence of zombie deer. I call this one Brain Dead Bambi. State of Decay will release on PC and Xbox Series X and S, and launch day 1 on Xbox Game Pass. Number 9, Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days. Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days looks like the beautifully bleak offspring of The Last of Us and This War of Mine. We loved it so much we even put it in a few of our showcases before it was released. This side-scrolling shelter survival game takes place in early 1980s Texas, as you're tasked with guiding a group of survivors through a zombie apocalypse. You'll need to craft weapons, scavenge resources, and help people in order to escape the city. Much like This War of Mine, you take control of everyday folk who aren't especially well equipped to deal with such a nightmarish scenario. You'll also need to manage each survivor's physical and psychological well-being while keeping your refuge safely barricaded from undead interlopers. Additionally, developer Pickpock has promised some tough moral decisions, testing just how far you'll go to keep your group alive. This is without even mentioning how mouth-wateringly gorgeous this game's visuals are, suggesting a highly detailed world no matter the more confined side-scrolling style. Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days is out now, and a demo is available on Steam if you want to try before you buy. Number 8, Metro Exodus. For this week's commented suggestion, we've got a hat-trick of people suggesting the Metro series. So a big thanks to Josh Williams 6928, AFI Strife, and Seth Lester 9966, who all suggest that Metro, with its nuclear fallout, mutant bears, and Russian accent so thick they could stop a bullet. This game series takes the gritty survival vibes and human drama of The Last of Us and throws them down into post-apocalyptic tunnels that pop out into the open landscapes of Mother Russia. You've got limited ammo, scavenging galore, and enough atmospheric tension to make your controller sweat. Just like Joel and Ellie, Artyom and his crew aren't just trying to survive, they're clinging to hope, searching for a better life outside the ruins. It's a trip across a shattered world, complete with emotional storytelling, tense stealth sections, and more moral ambiguity than a philosophy major chugging cans of Monster Energy. If you loved sneaking around, upgrading gear, and getting emotionally devastated in The Last of Us, then Metro Exodus is your next emotional thrill ride. While it did come out in 2019, it got visual upgrades to current-gen consoles, which means you can nearly feel the bear drool drip onto you. Just remember, always check your gas mask. Always. Number 7, The Sinking City 2. Even though its Lovecraftian inspiration makes it a decidedly more heightened experience than The Last of Us, The Sinking City 2 shifts towards a full-on survival horror thrill ride compared to its more action-adventure-centric predecessor. For the many who found the first Sinking City a little too big for its own good, this sequel will be going to the semi-open world route instead, opting for a smaller, more curated series of areas. Like The Last of Us though, this standalone sequel will throw players into an extremely hostile American city. In this case, the fictional 1920s Arkham, where they'll battle monstrous abominations. The game will focus on exploration and combat, with the investigation mechanics of the first game now being entirely optional only for those craving a beefier adventure. The hot-off-the-presses gameplay reveal looks absolutely beautiful, a feat all the more impressive given that developer Frogwares is operating out of Ukraine under unimaginably trying circumstances. The Sinking City 2 is aiming to release on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S sometime in 2025. Number 6, As One We Survive. As One We Survive is a top-down post-pandemic survival game in which players take control of a father who desperately seeks help for his sick daughter. You'll not only need to fight, scavenge, and craft to keep yourself and your progeny alive, but you'll also be tasked with nurturing a wider community which must be protected from outside threats. Developer Revelation Games has promised some seriously challenging, even unforgiving gameplay. Basically, don't expect to find anything like insta-health heal packs lying around. You'll need to bandage wounds and sleep off injuries. However, the game does handily offer a story mode for those who simply want to experience the narrative without the stress of, well, dying all the time. So that's kind of nice. With a father-daughter dynamic that's definitely going to remind you of Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us, this just might be one of the most emotionally charged post-apocalyptic games due to release in short order. As One We Survive aims to release in early access on PC sometime in 2025. Number 5, Forest Rains. One of the most distinctive visual motifs of The Last of Us is how nature appears to have basically reclaimed most urban spaces, ensconcing them in vegetation in a way that's both unnerving and beautiful. And that's why the key tenet of Forest Rains, an FPS set in a decrepit Paris, that's become overrun by an evolving sentient forest and the deadly creatures therein. It goes without saying that Forest Rains owns much of its sci-fi horror to the film Annihilation as The Last of Us, with its central entity which mutates the natural environment. However, the forest is a force of ambiguous intent, and interacting with it can also allow players to use its powers to their advantage, even harnessing it to overpower enemies. The story will reportedly unfold in non-linear fashion and heavily hinge around player choice, with environments changing to reflect those choices. The reimagined, mutated version of Paris is absolutely sublime, and if this lives up to its potential, it could be a stone-cold masterpiece. With former Stalker devs working on the game, it's very easy to get optimistic about this one. Forest Rains is set to release on PC and consoles. Number 4, Rooted. Rooted is an immersive survival game that takes place in the late 21st century, as players control one of the few remaining humans on Earth. The goal? Eke out an existence in the remains of a world ravaged by bacteriological warfare. So either solo or with friends, players must build a camp and create safe shelter. You're given the choice of setting up shop in easier rural areas or hunkering down in the riskier but potentially more rewarding urban locales where protective gear is a must. Arming yourself against dangers both animal and human is also key to survival, and the developers have further hinted that there are robotic foes to worry about. Great, even more things for me to try and manage. And on top of this, you'll need to keep your wits about you as the world will periodically evolve in line with your actions, for better or worse. Developer Headlight Studio hasn't been shy about admitting that Rooted was directly inspired by The Last of Us, but it also looks compelling enough to stand apart on its own. Rooted is set to release on PC and consoles. Number 3, No More Light. No More Light is a co-op survival game that offers a somewhat refreshing shift away from pandemics and mutant humanoids by throwing players into a world overrun with insectoid aliens, because sure, why not? Put it on the list. In addition to navigating a desolate world infested with extraterrestrial horrors, the game has quite a novel rub. Players will undergo a metamorphosis over the course of the story, where they developed insect powers and abilities. It will be up to the players whether they fully embrace their transformation or hold on to what remains of their humanity. Oh, and there's also the ability to remotely control alien creatures via a parasitic worm, letting you infiltrate alien strongholds and cause chaos. These features should help No More Light stand out in a crowded genre field, and hopefully it's got the juice to live up to its enormous potential. Number 2, God Save Birmingham. Easily the best titled game on this list, God Save Birmingham, which is how they pronounce it in Birmingham, shifts The Last of Us formula to medieval Birmingham, as players fight to survive a 14th century zombie apocalypse. You'll get to explore a lovingly rendered recreation of Middle Ages Birmingham that's ravaged by a mysterious plague, fending off those who've been transformed into creatures while seeking out shelter and supplies. Gameplay is defined by complex physics-based mechanics, allowing players to improvise barricades and other means of blocking the zombies from reaching your precious, tasty brains. But players will need to be on the lookout, as obstacles can also end up being their own undoing, like, in the dev's own words, a bucket. Though God Save Birmingham is still in its early stages, it's being made by a small team and it sure looks like a breath of fresh air in this genre space. Developers Ocean Drive Studio have promised that the size of the in-game Birmingham will increase throughout the early access period, leading up to full release, and if they can pull it off, it should make for one of the most uniquely situated survival games on the market right now. God Save Birmingham is set to release in early access on PC and consoles. Number 1, Retrieval. And finally, we have the game which perhaps appears most obviously inspired by The Last of Us, Retrieval. Though we haven't actually seen any gameplay from the title yet, the gorgeous reveal trailer sets the tone perfectly as a cinematic horror action title. Set on a planet 18.6 billion miles away from Earth, research team leader Hannah finds herself injured and trapped in a subway base where she's forced to battle horrific creatures. The urban subterranean setting and clicker-like monsters certainly feel heavily indebted to The Last of Us, though it remains to be seen exactly how the gameplay will actually shake out. Given that the reveal trailer dropped more than 18 months ago, hopefully we haven't got too long to wait for a full gameplay reveal. If it can live up to the staggering glory of its stunning cinematic trailer, it's a guaranteed banger in the making. Retrieval will release for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. And if you are still watching at this point, thank you so much for hanging around. You are one of the real ones. And as a thank you, here's a bit of The Last of Us trivia. What does a phone sex line and a Bahamas cruise contest have to do with The Last of Us? Well, in The Last of Us environments, they would have fake ads, like fake pest control posters. And the numbers on them would be something like 800-555-2545 or 800-555-6784. And it was something that the artists just made up on the spot. However, these artists making them up on the spot clearly didn't Google those numbers or check them. According to Neil Druckmann, that was an artist's mistake. What happened was they put some phone numbers in the game and then they thought they could just change the area code to 555. Then it becomes invalid because that's what they do in movies. But I guess that doesn't work when you have a 1-800 in front of it. So these numbers that the artist made up did actually work. One of them was for a Bahamas cruise competition and the other one was for a phone sex line. The game came out and these did actually work and people did call them. Naughty Dog then had to scramble to replace the various digits and phone numbers throughout the game on posters. So there you go. I hope that bit of trivia is something you didn't know about The Last of Us and it's an interesting tidbit that you can tell your friends. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and we need you to comment for next week's video about the top 10 games you can finish fast right now. So if there's a game that you played recently that you can finish really fast and was amazingly fun, please comment down below and let us know what that is. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video interesting. Peace!